when my little granddaughter leaned close to me that quiet Sunday afternoon, when she slipped her tiny hand into mine, and when she whispered, with trembling breath, "Grandma, please never tell Mom," I felt something inside me break. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, gentle crack, like an old piece of wood giving in after many years of holding too much weight. I looked at her. Her eyes were wide, scared, begging, and in that moment, I understood something I had never wanted to face. My family, my sweet, precious family, was hurting in ways I had not seen, or maybe ways I had not allowed myself to see. And the hardest part was that the person my granddaughter feared the most was my own daughter-in-law. I did not cry. I did not speak right away. I just held her close and wondered what a grandmother should do when a child's secret could shatter everything. My name is Rose, but almost everyone calls me Grandma Rose. I am 68 years old, with hands that tremble a little when I sew, and a back that aches when I sit too long. But my heart is steady. At least it used to be. My son, Michael, is the kind of man mothers feel proud of. Quiet, hardworking, gentle since childhood. He always held doors open, always said please and thank you, always tried to fix things, even when he was too young to know how. He married Claire 12 years ago. I still remember the first time he brought her home. Elegant, hair tied neatly, clothes perfect and clean. She carried herself like someone who had everything figured out, and I tried. I really tried to like her for that. But she looked around my little house like it was too small. She sat on my sofa like it was lumpy. She accepted my homemade cookies like she was doing me a favor. Still, she made my son smile. She gave him a home. And later, she gave him 2 beautiful children, Emily, now 9, and Jacob, now 6. So I kept quiet. I swallowed the little hurts. That is what mothers do, isn't it? We keep the peace. We let our children build their own worlds, even if they build them without us. I used to visit once a week, not too often. I didn't want to intrude, but every visit felt smaller, shorter. Claire had a way of making me feel like a guest instead of family. If I asked the kids a question, she answered for them. If I offered to help in the kitchen, she said she had it under control. If I brought small gifts, she glanced at them with that polite, tight smile that said she wished I hadn't. My son pretended not to notice. Maybe he really did, and single quotes t. Men often don't see the quiet battles women fight. But the children, oh, they loved me. They ran to me every time. Grandma, Grandma. They climbed onto my lap and told me stories, showed me their drawings, asked if I could stay a little longer. And every time Claire looked at the clock, I felt like time was something borrowed still. I tried to keep the peace. That was my role, at least. That's what I believed. Then one month, Claire said something that changed everything. She told me not to come every week. She said the children were getting too attached. Said routine was important, and my visits disrupted their structure. I remember standing there at the doorway, smiling like I agreed. Smiling even though something deep inside me twisted painfully. I told her it was fine. I told her I understood. But when I walked back to my car, my hands were shaking. I cried the moment I sat down. Not loudly, just quiet tears, sliding down my cheeks. Tears for a grandmother who felt slowly erased. But still, I did not say anything to Michael. I didn't want to cause tension in their home. So I waited for holidays, birthdays, the occasional invitation. And when I did visit, I held on to every moment with the kids like it was gold slipping through my fingers. Emily, sweet little Emily, always hugged me the tightest. She traced the wrinkles on my hands, kissed them softly, and said she loved how warm they were. She said my house felt like a soft blanket. I didn't know then how important that would become. Asterisk, asterisk, the first sign that something was wrong came in small whispers. Not from Emily. Not yet, but from things I noticed around the house. Once, I saw her coloring alone at the dining table while Claire was talking loudly on her phone in the other room. Emily looked tired, like she hadn't slept well. I asked, "Sweetheart, are you okay?" She nodded quickly, too quickly. Another time, I saw her flinch when her mother called her name. Just the tone, sharp, irritated, made her shoulders rise. I gently asked, "Are you afraid of something, Emily?" She forced a smile and said, "No, Grandma. Mommy is just busy." I let it go. I should not have. But at the time, I told myself she was just sensitive. Children notice everything, especially tension. One afternoon, when Claire stepped out to make a phone call, I overheard Emily whispering to little Jacob, Don't make noise. Mom gets upset. They were playing with building blocks, the quietest game imaginable. But they whispered like someone was sleeping in the next room. I watched them for a long time, feeling my chest grow tight. A few weeks later, something happened that I still think about. I had brought the kids small notebooks, one pink, one blue with cartoon animals on the front dot, just simple little things. Emily opened hers with so much excitement. She pressed it to her chest. But when Claire walked into the room and saw the notebooks, her whole expression changed. "Oh, more clutter," she said. The tone was sharp. The room felt colder instantly. Emily's smile faded. She slowly closed the notebook. I gently said, "She likes it, Claire. It's just a small gift." She shrugged. "I'm trying to keep the house minimalist. They have too many unnecessary things." She didn't say it cruelly, just coldly, like it was a fact. But Emily looked like she had been punished. Later, when Claire was in the kitchen, Emily whispered to me, "I'll hide it in my coat pocket. Then it won't make Mom mad." I didn't know what to say. So I kissed her forehead and told her she didn't have to hide anything from me. But she shook her head. Her eyes looked older than they should. Then came the day when everything changed. It was a gray Sunday. Rain tapped lightly against the windows. My son had asked me to come over because he needed help fixing a loose cabinet door. I was happy. Any excuse to be around my grandchildren was a gift. Claire looked annoyed. When I arrived, I could sense it the moment she opened the door. "You could have told me she was coming," she said to Michael under her breath. Not quiet enough, but I pretended not to hear. I always pretended not to hear. While Michael worked downstairs, I stayed upstairs with Emily. She was sitting cross-legged on her bedroom floor, surrounded by little paper scraps. "What are you making, sweetheart?" I asked. She looked at me, hesitating, then held up a tiny folded paper crane. "For you," she whispered. She handed it to me like it was something fragile. I smiled and kissed the top of her head. "Thank you, Angel." Then she did something unexpected. She leaned close to me, very close. Her small hand found my wrist. Her lips touched my ear, and she whispered the words that froze me completely. "Grandma, please never tell Mom." I felt something drop in my stomach. I held her gently by her shoulders and asked softly, "Tell her what, sweetheart?" Emily hesitated. Her eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. "Mom gets mad when I cry," she whispered, "so I have to hide it. And I hide things in my closet so she won't throw them away. My drawings, my crafts, my memories. She says they're messy, but they make me happy." She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Embarrassed, I froze. This wasn't about minimalism. This wasn't about structure. This was about a child terrified of losing the tiny pieces of her world. "Emily, honey," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Does your mother shout at you?" She shook her head quickly. "No, she doesn't shout. She just gets mad." With her eyes and her face. Sometimes she says I'm too sensitive. Sometimes she says I shouldn't bother her. I felt my throat closing, not from anger, from sadness so deep it almost felt like grief. I hugged her. She clung to me like someone who had been waiting to be held. Then, suddenly, footsteps. Claire. Emily jumped away from me like she had done something wrong. Claire walked in with folded laundry. She looked at Emily's watery eyes. "What's going on?" she asked sharply. Emily shook her head. Nothing." Claire's face tightened. She looked at me, suspicious. I smiled calmly, trying to keep peace. We were just talking about her craft. Claire didn't look convinced. Later, when she went downstairs, Emily grabbed my hand again. "Grandma, you won't tell Mom, right? She'll take my things. She'll be upset with me. Please, promise me." What could I do? I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to betray trust. But she looked so fragile, so scared, so I said the only thing I could. "I promise, sweetheart." And just like that, a secret settled between us, a heavy, aching secret. And I knew, one day, I would have to decide whether to keep it or break it. The turning point came 3 weeks later. I woke up early one morning, made my coffee, and sat in my rocking chair by the window. The house was quiet, too quiet. Sometimes silence feels peaceful, but that morning, it felt like an empty ache. My phone buzzed. A message from my son. "Mom, can you come over today?" Something happened with Emily. My heart dropped. I grabbed my coat and left immediately. When I arrived, the front door was partially open, not wide, just a few inches, as if someone had left in a hurry. Inside, the house was unusually silent. I found Claire in the kitchen, pacing, rubbing her temples. She didn't greet me, she didn't even look at me. She just said, "She's in her room." I walked down the hall and gently opened Emily's door. She was sitting on her bed, knees pulled to her chest, shaking. My son sat next to her, looking helpless. "Mom," he whispered. "She had a panic attack." I froze. A panic attack. My sweet, gentle granddaughter. I sat beside her carefully. I touched her back, rubbing small circles like I used to when she was a baby sweetheart. "It's Grandma. I'm here." She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what, Angel?" "For being bad." My heart broke open. I looked sharply at my son. He shook his head quickly. I didn't say that to her, but I already knew who did. A few minutes later, when Emily had calmed a little, my son told me what happened. "Mom, Claire cleaned Emily's room this morning. She threw away a box under the bed." My heart stopped. "The box with her crafts?" I whispered. He nodded. "She thought it was trash. Emily had a meltdown when she realized it was gone." My entire body felt cold. Claire threw away her memories. Her drawings. Her paper cranes. Her little treasures. The things she was so afraid of losing. The things she begged me not to tell her mother about. I closed my eyes, feeling pain deep in my chest. My son sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Mom, I don't know how to fix this." I looked at Emily. She was staring at her hands, trembling. I reached out and took them gently. "Angel, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry." She shook her head. "Mom hates crying." I swallowed hard. This wasn't anger. This wasn't rebellion. This was fear. Deep, quiet, hidden fear. "Emily," I whispered softly, "can you tell me what made you so scared this morning?" She glanced at the door, then leaned close to me. "Grandma, she said it was just trash. She said I shouldn't keep silly things. She said I make the house look messy. And she said, if I keep hiding things, she'll take everything." My son stood up abruptly. "What?" Claire said that. Emily nodded, biting her lip. He ran a hand through his hair, overwhelmed. Then something happened that shifted everything. Claire appeared in the doorway. Her arms were crossed. Her face was stiff. She said, "Emily, stop exaggerating." I didn't say it like that. Emily immediately shrank. Claire sighed. "I'm trying to teach her responsibility. She hides things everywhere. She needs discipline." I felt something inside me grow firm, not angry, just steady. I stood up slowly. "Claire," I said in the calmest voice I could manage, "I think she was keeping those things because they made her feel safe." Claire rolled her eyes. "She needs to learn that this is my house, not a storage unit." My son stepped forward. "Claire, she's 9. They were her crafts. They were trash," she snapped. The room fell silent. Emily began to cry quietly, hiding her face. I walked to Claire gently, not hostile, not confrontational, just calm. "Claire," I said softly, "I know you want order. I know you want control, but she is not clutter. Her memories are not clutter. Her feelings are not clutter." For the first time, Claire's expression cracked. Just a tiny bit. But I saw something: exhaustion, maybe. Worry. Fear of losing control. She turned away, her voice breaking. "I'm trying," she whispered. "You don't understand. Everything is always a mess. The kids, the schedule, the house. I feel like I'm suffocating." Her voice trembled. It was the first real emotion I had seen in her in years. My son approached her gently. "Claire, why didn't you tell me?" She shook her head. "I'm supposed to handle things. A good mom handles things." I stepped closer, speaking softly. "No one handles everything alone. Not even good mothers, especially not good mothers." She covered her face, quietly crying. It was strange and heartbreaking. Meanwhile, Emily watched from the bed, confused and still scared. I knelt beside her. "Angel, nothing is your fault. You did nothing wrong," she whispered. "But Mom is crying because of me." "No," I said firmly but softly. "Your mother is crying because she is overwhelmed." Adults feel things too. Sometimes we forget to say it. Emily looked at her mother. Her eyes were full of worry. I gently brushed her hair back. "Would you like to show Mom your drawings? The ones you loved?" She shook her head. "They're gone." My heart twisted, but something inside me sparked suddenly. I stood up and walked to my purse. I pulled out the tiny paper crane Emily had given me weeks earlier, the one she thought she had to hide. Her eyes widened. "You kept it," she whispered. "Of course," I said. "I keep everything you give me." I handed it to her. "Would you like to give this to your mom? Maybe she needs something soft today." Emily hesitated. Then she nodded slowly. Clutching the crane, she walked to her mother quietly. Claire knelt, still wiping tears. Emily held out the little crane with shaky hands. I made this. I didn't give it to you before because I thought you wouldn't like it. But Grandma says, maybe you will. Claire stared at it. Her face softened completely. She took it carefully, like it was a fragile treasure, and she broke down crying. Real crying, not frustrated tears. Real, heavy, human tears. She pulled Emily into her arms. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Emily cried too. They both held each other tightly. My son wrapped his arms around both of them, and for the first time in years, their family looked like a family. The days that followed were quieter, softer, different. My son called me often, asking for advice. Claire apologized to me in a long, shaky phone call. She said she never meant to hurt Emily. She just felt buried under expectations she could not carry. I told her the truth. We all break sometimes, but breaking doesn't mean we're bad. It means we're human. She cried again. A week later, they invited me over for dinner. Not because it was a holiday. Not because something needed fixing. Just because they wanted me there. The kids ran to me like always. But this time, Claire didn't look uncomfortable. She smiled. A real smile. During dinner, Emily proudly showed her mother a new drawing. Claire admired it with genuine warmth. I love it, she said. You're very talented. I watched Emily's face glow. Later, Claire pulled me aside. I realized something, she said softly. I was so focused on making everything perfect that I forgot my kids didn't need perfect. They needed me, just present, patient, warm. I placed a hand over hers. That's the hardest lesson of all, I whispered. She nodded. Then she said something I never expected. I want you to come more often. Emily needs you. And I think I do too. For the first time ever, I saw vulnerability in her eyes. Not weakness, just honesty. And it made me like her, truly like her, in a way I never had before. Over the next month, small changes began to blossom. Claire created a little corner in Emily's room called the memory box area. A special place where Emily could keep her drawings, crafts, treasures without fear of losing them. She even bought her a bigger box. They decorated it together with stickers and ribbons. Emily showed it to me proudly. Mom helped me pick the colors, she said, smiling. My heart felt warm. One afternoon, when the kids were playing outside, Claire sat next to me at the kitchen table. Rose, I want to tell you something. I nodded gently. She looked down at her hands. I always felt like you judged me, not with words, just with your eyes. I felt like I could never be the kind of mother you were. I reached across the table, touching her hand lightly. Claire, motherhood is not a competition. It's a journey none of us are prepared for. You're learning, and that's enough. She swallowed, emotional. Thank you, she whispered, for not giving up on us. I smiled softly. I never would, and I meant it. The memory of that whisper still lives in my heart. Grandma, please, never tell Mom. But today, those words feel different. Not like a secret between us, but a reminder of a moment that changed everything. Sometimes the smallest voice in the house holds the biggest truth. Sometimes a child shows us what adults refuse to see, and sometimes healing begins with a whisper. Emily's room is filled with colors now. Her drawings hang proudly on the wall. Her memory box is overflowing with little treasures. Claire laughs more. My son smiles more. The house feels warm again. Not perfect, not spotless, but full of life. Last week, when I visited, Emily hugged me tightly and said, Grandma, you helped us. But the truth is, I didn't fix anything. I simply listened. I simply stayed. I simply held space for a little girl who needed to be heard. And sometimes, that is enough. If there is one thing I have learned in all my years as a mother and grandmother, it is this. Families don't fall apart because of big storms. They fall apart when small cracks go unnoticed, and they heal when someone, anyone, stops, listens, and says, I see you. I hear you. I'm here. I am Grandma Rose, and this is the story of how one whispered secret helped mend a family's heart. And if you ever find yourself holding someone as fragile truth, hold it gently. Because sometimes that is all the love they need.